Welcome to the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. So today we're sitting down with Tempe Walker. Yes, dude, you have the biggest energy. Like, I watch your videos all the time, and honestly, like, I rather watch your videos than like a show or a movie. You're just entertaining. You're a cool dude to see. So if you're not following Tempe yet, make sure you do. You drop a lot of value also on your videos, social media, and stuff like that. So that's super dope. You made a comment earlier that at one point you were unemployable. You had over 30 jobs at one point, and you were unemployable. And then you decided to jump into entrepreneurship, and right now you're just kicking ass. I mean, you're crushing on it. Please give us your story. Like, just tell us how you began, how you kind of tapped into it, and how it's changed your life. One, and then two, how it's evolved over the years.
Absolutely. Well, first off, thank you for having me on. Appreciate being here, and
thanks for coming, bro.
It's an honor, man. So many great guests, so it's appreciated that I'm here. The story, honestly, was like I said, I'm from a small town, was kind of a big fish in a small pond, grew up with like a ton of potential. Like I was like the guy in a lot of ways, and I thought the world almost like owed me something. Like I used to dream about like winning the lotto, and like I didn't even play the lotto. Like it made no sense. Like I just thought things were gonna come to me. And like I said, I've had over 34 jobs. So, and it's not that I wasn't a hard worker or a sweet-hearted guy. Like I worked hard, I did all those things, but I had a really hard time like suffering like a fool's errand. And like if I didn't like something, I was like, no, I'm not doing this, and I would just quit or move on. So went through that, and then finally around 25. So from 18 to 25, and I had a son at 18. And I just, I really just kind of stumbled and couldn't find my way for a long time. And at 25, I looked in the mirror one day and was like, dude, are you ever going to really tap into all this potential and talent and charisma and all this stuff that you have that God has given you a gift for? Are you going to keep squandering it, or are you going to like step up and start taking some action? So the very next day I signed up for real estate school. Got into that, and then became a realtor and took to it quick. And I had never really made any money. And I think in like my second month, I made like $17,000, and I was like, all right.
This is it.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
so that's kind of what happened. I'm 33 now, so it's been about 8 years on the grind. And that was a very simple start, right? Like just a regular realtor, not really a business owner, not an entrepreneur, just really just a realtor. Like, I know that is entrepreneurial, but I wasn't looking at it like that. I was just looking like transactional. And then I realized when you get into sales, like there's so much self-development and mindset, and just like I took to all that, and I started like really opening myself up to like becoming the best version of myself. So I've been on that journey and that evolution, which has then, turned me into a different man. Like me at 25 and me today is, again, sweet-hearted, kind guy, but like I'm a beast compared to what I was then. You know what I mean? Because I've really absorbed and taken a lot in.
Well, there's two things that you said that I want to tap into. One is going to be you said you were looking at yourself in the mirror when you were 25.
Yeah.
What gave that shift? I mean, you said something and it clicked, and something hit you over the head. Yeah. What was it that made you switch lanes pretty much and start betting on yourself as opposed to having that sense of entitlement that you were talking about?
Well, I think most great things in life, a lot of great opportunities come from someone that cares about you. I have an aunt, my Aunt Cindy. She's in Prescott, Arizona, and she's been a successful realtor for a long time. And she always told me, Temp, your personality, your energy, all of that would be so good for real estate. And I just was always like, no, it's commission-based, like no guaranteed pay. I would never do that. And finally, I had cold called her to sell her a multi-level marketing pill. And she was like, Temp, I will buy this pill. And I was going to make $200. She's like, I'll buy this pill, but you are going to real estate school, and I'm going to pay for it, pay me back on your first deal. So I don't know how much longer I would have kind of floundered had she not like pushed that on me. So I'm so thankful for it. And I think I was just exhausted. I was just tired of like being tired. I was tired of being broke. I was tired of, just not really catching my footing and having ideas and having potential, but never like really stepping up to the
executing.
Occasion. Yeah, I mean, it gets exhausting to be not tapping into your potential. Like you can feel it, you know it. So I think I just finally got fed up and was like, dude, you need to.
It's pretty interesting that you bring that up, man. It's and you're right. I think we're wired. We're naturally wired to be curious. One thing, like I'm curious about a lot of things, and I have 12 ideas a day. 11 of them are crappy, but maybe one may linger around for a couple of weeks, and maybe it falls off or maybe it doesn't. But those come quite often when you're in that state of mind, right? When you're kind of looking for the progress, and it's it's interesting that you tapped into the real estate side just to kind of break into something else. I see it as how they say, for example, that pot is a gateway drug to bigger things. I think, and I call it, I even call it like this, is like being a realtor is a gateway drug to being an entrepreneur.
It really is.
Yeah, it is. It's low entry barrier. It's one of the best things that I can advise anybody to get. I mean, if you don't have anything going on, even if you have a plan that you're working on right now or building, whatever, it's always a good idea to have a license on the side. Why? Because it's a good plan B. Yeah. And it forces you, to start getting used to keeping stuff and continuing education on something.
Yep.
And that's one. And then two, I mean, you get hit with a $7,500 check because you close one transaction. Like that's gonna wake you up, especially if you've been on a paycheck basis.
It's that little extra bonus that, like, if you're on a fixed income and you start hustling real estate on the side and you go close a deal once a quarter.
Right.
Like, how powerful is that $7,500 check? Just like a little infusion of cash.
Right.
Which you're never going to get on a fixed income. Maybe a year-end bonus, but like,
you
can go give yourself a raise anytime.
Exactly.
When you have that license, and I think that's why it's so powerful.
Yeah, it's honestly, it was one of the best moves that I made. I mean, people ask me about having a license, especially doing what we do, right, which is wholesaling investments and all that stuff that come into play. But I think having a license has never been detrimental. It's never been an issue.
I love having it.
You have to act right, otherwise
you have to treat people well.
Yeah, because it's fiduciary duty. Now you're legally binded, and to perform well.
Yep.
So that's one, and it just keeps you in that space of one, performance, growth, and I think also that tapping into a community like that, man. I mean, you have a lot of like-minded people that play into it, and then you start drinking the juice, right? The personal growth juice. Oh, you know what? I'm Rich Dad Poor Dad. Think and Grow Rich.
That's the book.
And
that gets us all started.
Yeah, exactly. You go down the line and like all these people that are actually taking steps and taking swings at life. They're gonna be connected at some point with something great that they read, a good podcast, a good conversation, and a good mastermind or something like that. But it's all connected, and I think that community kind of finds itself.
Yep. And when you talk about community, it's so important because this quote gets overused, but I think it's an important one, is you become who you spend your time with, right? And if you're in a community of people that are spending their time on self-development and mindset and trying to become the best version of themselves, well, naturally, you're going to get pulled that direction. Yeah. So the license, and then just from a monetary value, I started as a regular realtor, and I built a pretty big real estate team and before I ever was an investor. So now I've leveraged that out. And with maybe an hour or two a week, I have a company that will pay me multiple six figures a year as a secondary option, right? Because I like having the license when I meet with a homeowner, because I want to give you a menu of options and just let you decide. Like, I really don't have a bias one way or the other. I'm saying, look, here's your options. Here's a net sheet if I paid cash. Here's a net sheet as is with commissions. Here's if we fixed it up. I want you to know this home's worth $300,000 if you go put 60 into it.
Right.
Here's a net sheet there. Like, here's your options. What works best for you, because I can solve all of them. So for me, the license allows me to do that, and it also lets me sleep at night. So I'm never the investor that's like trying to tell someone their home is not worth what it's worth. I want you to know everything, and this just might be the right solution for you if I give you cash in the next 7 days, right? So I like the license, and it's a lot easier to prospect, because when you reach out and say, hey, I want to give you an offer on your home, way easier than saying, hey, I want to list your home, like the way realtors are taught.
Right.
So that's how we prospect. We reach out as an investor, but then we pivot to agency, because we both know 95% of leads are retail.
Yeah.
So I go, hey, great news. There's money to be made here. It's just not necessarily by us. this is an awesome house. I think I could sell it for $250 right now. You're going to net $230. I'd be offering you $160. Like, I can get the paperwork over right now. We can get it signed. And I think I can get this done for you like in the next 45 days. So how great of a pivot is that when you take all of your investor leads and all the money you're spending to cultivate a business over here, and then you can still eat off of it on this other business. That's why I really like agency as a plan B.
Yeah, we use it. I have a similar model in my operation, and it's it's not that I want to dive too much into the the ins and outs of wholesaling or running the real estate investment business, but it's, for example, we have the first thing that we structure for is going to be the wholesale deal, right? Cash offer, typical. If that doesn't work, we'll pivot onto an option to buy kind of thing. If that doesn't work, we'll pivot onto subject to offer. If that doesn't, or seller financing. If that doesn't work, then we'll pitch the listing. But you have a tier of things that you're prepared because you've put in the time, you put in the effort to learn your way, to actually do the due diligence on the area, and then just put together a toolbox that you can take over to your client and see what's going to be the best fit.
Yeah.
The massive wholesale spread is not always the best thing or the most ethical thing to do, and like I'm proud to say that I've shied away from deals because I see it. And like, you know what, I could do it, but I'm gonna put this person in a bad spot.
Yep.
And it's not right to do. And I think if we come from a space of and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, fitness, restaurant, whatever, if you come from a space where you want to provide solutions and solve a problem, you're always going to end up on the positive side of things.
Right.
And I think that's one of the byproducts or one of the side effects of hitting the personal growth journey at one point in time, man. It's magical what happens when you start evolving.
Well, one thing you said there is like, and I do it all the time, is I never put money over my character. And I refuse. And when I first got into wholesaling, I actually was losing sleep at night because I'm like, am I doing something wrong here? Or like, because it seemed like almost this smoke and mirror type world. So I just chose from that day forward, when I woke up the next day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do full disclosure and like tell the truth. Yeah. Everything. And I'm just going to advise. I'm going to be a true fiduciary as an investor and as this. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I still make big spreads and I still try to make good money, but I try to do it without ever jeopardizing my character. And I really think that makes me stick out in a good way, right? Because, we have so many colleagues in this business that do it the right way, but there are a handful of people that don't. So, if they're meeting with that person and meeting with me, they're going to be like, you know what, this guy's just, he's laying it all out there and he's telling me the truth. He's not trying to push me one way or the other. Have I lost money because of that? Absolutely. But do I still make plenty? Yeah.
You know what, man? It's in terms of losing that kind, or losing, quote unquote, losing money. I mean, I think I'm a big believer in acting in good faith, and I think it always comes back to us some way, somehow. You know, I always leave whenever I have a face-to-face, even on the phone or whatever. I try to, just close off a conversation with something, dropping off, leaving behind something of value, something they can use. And yeah, I may not, it's happened a lot of times where I don't take the deal, but I feel really good because I told them what they could do, and I'm not gonna make a cent on that thing.
But you helped.
But I helped. And next thing you know, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, boom, I'll get a referral, I'll get something else. Oh, you know what? Johnny Q wants to sell this property over here, and I send him your number, and then we end up locking that. And that's happened multiple times over years, man. I've been doing this, specifically real estate investments, since 2013. So, we've been able to see that scenario and prove it. So it doesn't even feel like I'm losing out every time I say no to a deal.
Well, and that's just, to me, that's just like energy. Like, I'm a big, I can get weird on that sort of stuff.
Oh, dude, let's go to town on that.
I get in a cold plunge. I get in a cold plunge 5 times a day. I do deep Wim Hof breathing. I'm very energy driven. Like, I just believe like what you put out will come back to you, no matter what that is. Like the way I treat people, the way I transact business, the way I put food into my body, all these things, right? They have an energy about them, and that energy has to go somewhere, and it's going to be negative or positive.
Right.
So just to your point, to reiterate on it, is like every decision I make, I just try to stay on the positive side of that energy, and I know that it's going to circle back to me. It's like, have you ever seen that picture where the there's like the dominoes and the person pushes this domino, like thinking they're going to get ahead.
Yeah.
But it's actually a circle, and every domino comes and then it crushes them.
Yeah.
That is real life. So I just try to stay operating always in a value base, positive energy base, and my life's pretty good. Like I still have, I'm human. I still have stuff happen to me, and as things happen to me, I have to adapt and choose to be positive. But overall, I think a lot of good energy comes back because I'm very mindful about what I'm putting into the world.
Well, one thing I can say, from a personal standpoint, is that every time I've ran into you, you do give that vibe, like the positive energy vibe. And I mean, when I see your stuff on social media, when we've talked before, it's just, it makes sense that you approach life through the aspect of energy.
Appreciate it.
I do something similar. I'm not as crazy as you with the cool plunges. Yeah. I tried it one time, and
Dude,
then
I bet you would love it. You gotta.
Things changed in weird parts of my body. Like no, got right out. Yeah. Hot shower after that.
Yeah.
But it's not. I'm big on breathing though. Like I do. I have different types of breathing meditations and breathing techniques and stuff like that. And I think it does place us in that state of energy, and that it's what, one thing that I feel it does is like when you're conscious about it and aware, the energy just kind of spills out whenever it wants to.
Yep.
So like you'll start.
You have it in the tank. Like you actually have the ability. Well, I think you're conscious that you have the energy to use. Mm-hmm. Where a lot of people, if you're not breathing and being mindful and meditating, which is a big, if you're not aware of what you have available to you, you don't even know to use it. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm very conscious. Before I ever walk in a room, I use things called triggers. Like I use like a doorway. If I walk in a doorway, I say 3 things to myself. I'm going to have energy, I'm going to serve, and I'm going to make an impact. So if I walk in a room, I want everyone to feel my energy, know that I'm there to serve, and I'm going to make an impact. And I know that sounds silly, but like that could escape your mind. But if you have a trigger, every time you tie your shoe, every time you walk through a doorway, I have this trigger to remind myself of who I want to show up as. So I've made it a point. If you spend time with me, you're going to leave that conversation feeling like, I don't know what I just experienced, but I really liked that. I really liked whatever was radiating off this guy was a positive. And I try to be mindful to take that into the room, right? I'm gonna bring energy, I'm gonna serve, and I'm gonna make an impact on every relationship. And because you can leave every conversation in your life. You're either gonna feel like you gained or you got depleted.
Right.
I try to always give and gain. And then I also try to be very cognizant of who I spend my time with, because we all know about the people who can drain us.
Oh, absolutely.
So I've been very strict about who I let in and who I don't. And if I can start to tell someone is that negative drain, I just have a respectful conversation and go like, look, unless some things change, I don't have time. Mm-hmm. And that's just the truth. I got a beautiful wife, 3 kids, a daughter on the way, 7 businesses. Where's the time? I don't have time to listen to this.
Right.
So, anyway, the triggers, there was a lot in that.
No, yeah, but it's something really important. I do, you call them triggers. I've used them as anchoring movements. I don't know if you've seen me do it before, but sometimes I'll take a deep breath. Even if we've been on masterminds and just, groups where,
we're talking to like 30 people.
Yeah, and it's something that I do if I feel that my energy is dropping a bit. I'll take a deep breath and I'll hit myself on the shoulder.
Dude, that's awesome.
And I go like that, and then it's something that I anchored a long time ago. It was actually a Tony Robbins training. It was built up that energy. And I anchored it in my subconscious, right? The way it's
the
processed.
Way Tony talks about.
Yeah, it's a dynamic, but you anchor it, and then I kid you not, man. Like I'll breathe. This has been years after that, so it's part of me now. Like it's if I'm feeling my energy just kind of drop a little bit.
Yeah.
Instead of slapping me in the face or throwing water in my eyes or something like that.
Or getting an ice chest full of cold water.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll take a deep breath, and then I'll just punch. I'll hit myself on the shoulder, and that kind of it just wakes up that the energy is not gone. It's just dormant.
It's dormant. You're not conscious that you still have more in the tank.
You activate it. You trigger it.
Energy is one of those things that you have to decide to go grab out of yourself.
Yep.
Like you can't just expect it to just show up. you got to know where to find it and pull it out, right? Or at least be so aware that it knows when to come out. Like if you're not aware of it, it kind of boxes itself up and it lies dormant.
This is my, I agree. This is my take with it. I think we have a vibe. We carry, a positive vibe or a negative vibe, and vibe is one thing. But I think the energy that we're talking about, it's one of those tools that we have in the tool chest. It's you can actually go in there, open it up, and take it out, and then use it wherever you. If you're gonna be talking, doing a presentation or something like, all right, I'm gonna tap into that energy. My vibe is still my vibe. I'm a positive dude, so I'm gonna walk around positive all the time.
Yeah.
And unless you're having a shitty day, then but you even then you can direct it, right? But it's I think it's pretty amazing when that, at least for me, when I realized that I could do that, I could, my energy's kind of running a little low or whatever, and have that conscious, awareness that I can tap into it, bring it up, and then just, wake my ass up.
Yeah, but it's within your ability to go change that.
Yeah.
And I think, too, what people misunderstand is, like, positive thinking is not enough. Mm-hmm. And we are human. We do have, can we cuss? No?
Yes.
We do have shitty days.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, like, we do have shitty days, and, like, no one's saying that you have to be perfect, but when you're aware, you can start to see things that are happening that would probably be rough, and you start to get into that mindset of, this isn't happening to me, it's happening for me.
Right.
And I think that vibe and the awareness, slowing down, taking some deep breaths, just being more of a conscious individual allows you to process these kind of knee-jerk reactions that we have on a day-to-day basis. Right before this, I got a phone call. I had a $1.2 million regular buyer fall out. I thought I was going to make 34 grand in a couple weeks. That just fell out. My first thought was, hey, are you okay? What's going on? How are you for my buyer? I'm not worried about the money, right? Like it will circle back some way, somehow. But early on in my career, let's just say if I had a $34,000, payday sitting out there, that would have really kind of stung me. And I kid you not, I had no reaction to it other than, what's the solution? What do I need to do next? Like, I had no emotional reaction to it. And I've learned that, and this is kind of pivoting to a new thing, but I guess we'll head there because I'm headed there.
Pull that thread, bro.
Like when people walk.
This is your show.
When people walk on heights and they have fear? I have that fear at heights. I don't really have an emotional trigger one way or the other when it comes to money. I don't fear losing money, or I don't know. And I think that has to do with the breathing and the mindfulness. I don't have that trigger. So I don't know where I was
Did you ever have it? Was there?
Yeah, when I was broke, I was like, I mean, maybe, but even then, if I had $1, you had $1. We were, I'm very giving. So I don't know. I just think, for whatever reason, I think that's helped me as a CEO or an investor because I can make just analytical decisions and not feel too emotional about it.
Well, I mean, I think that being resourceful is really the key there, or the word, because for example, a lot of times I don't have all the answers. I know, to an extent, I'm an expert in my field, right? But sometimes, shit comes at me and I have no idea. All right, cool, this is new. However, I'm confident that I'm a very resourceful person.
Yeah.
So if I can't figure it out, I know somebody who can figure it out. I know if not, I know where I can, get the answer from. But it's the thought behind everything that, I'll figure it out. I've always figured it out.
I love that. You have faith in yourself.
Yes. And it may not be, I don't think it's a thing that should carry you throughout your entrepreneur career. But I think that's definitely one of the behaviors that got me through the shitty parts.
Yeah.
Through the heavy parts, through the, when I was looking out my window and my car was getting repoed 15 years ago, and it was it's tough moments. But what I was thinking was, wow, I have, no idea how I ended up here.
Right.
But I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah, and then also I think when you start to take extreme ownership, like Jocko Willink talks about, everything that happens to you happens because of you. And when you truly feel like that, with no well, this happened because of this person. No, when you truly take ownership, because I've had stress lately, I got so much stuff going on. And I've had some moments where I wanted to be upset with other people that maybe work for me or work with me or whatever. and something happened. And I've looked at it and I'm like, oh wow, that's my fault because I didn't set these systems or processes or expectations or communicate clearly, right? Where my reaction was like, oh, that they did something wrong. Well, it's like, no, the only reason why a mistake happened here was because of me, because I didn't set it up. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just.
Well, it can come down to being I love it that you say it that way. It is owning your actions. It's one of the. I think it's one of the toughest things to break into, man. I don't think we're even conditioned to think that way. As we start growing up, it's always.
You want to impart blame, but
right. If you break something as a kid, why did it happen? Well, it happened because of, and then we just get conditioned that way. Boom, boom, boom. So we start getting learned behaviors, right, or learning behaviors that are not, are maybe in our nature, but we adopt them because it's just part of
it's just the conditioning and the programming.
Yeah, and as we grow old, it's hard to let go of those feelings, behaviors, ideas, or perspectives. It's hard to let go of that stuff. So what happens? Like you bring that into your career, you bring that into your family, and then the same thing that made you say that it was your cousin's fault. The thing broke when you were both playing and ball in the living room. Makes you say that my employees are sucking because it's, they suck.
Yeah, that's the rhythm of how you operate.
Yeah.
The first time I ever met you, you were speaking at, I'm at Steve Trang's brokerage, and you came in to speak to us. And you were talking about conditioning, programming, and you were doing the thing where you're like, hey, what comes out of cows or something? And you had had us, you had had us saying silk, 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 silk. And then we said the wrong word because you conditioned us to say it.
Yeah.
That's the very first time I ever met you. And that story that you were just telling just made me think of that. So. But yeah, you were had the whole room fall right into this trap.
It was a what, 20-second? Maybe a 20-second conditioning exercise?
You conditioned us for 10, 15, 20 seconds maybe.
Tops, yeah.
And then all of us fell for it. And I was like, it was like a smart room of people. I'm like, I was like, what the hell? I was like, this dude's a magician. And then ever since then, we started I was like, hey, I got to know you. I need to be your friend. Because you were that day when you spoke, I was like, man, this dude's like a...
Why, thank you, man. Made me blush.
Yeah, but no, mental... I was just like, he is like a ninja. I need to learn all this. So then we started being friends.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty cool class. I love teaching that clinic, and it's some behavioral tendencies, man. It's really, we're all algorithms, and it comes down to really taking everything that we've had in our past and then what we have naturally, and then combining it all and then seeing if that applies, to whatever outlook. I like to call it my truth, and this is something that I learned from one of my mentors, L.E.S.S. But it's really kind of figuring out what my truth in life is. And does it make sense? Any action that I take, is it on the positive side of my truth or on the negative side of my truth?
Yeah.
But really dialing it into what your expectations of life, what space you want to be in. That took me years to figure out. I mean, and one of the things I love that you said that you won't trade a dollar for your character. One of the things that I have it's I won't trade time for money. It's my thing. So if meaning that if I'm gonna be into somewhere that I'm not owning my time, and my time pretty much means happiness, freedom, and then connection with friends, family, kids, wife, and everything that it encompasses. I'm not gonna make that exchange for a dollar.
Right.
So it's compiling different aspects of different areas of your life, on the physical life, on the love life, relationships, and professional life. How well you're putting it all together as an entrepreneur, and then keeping it in one single place. I mean, I think that entails what a sense of my truth is.
Yeah.
And it really breaks it down, dude, to a simple concept. When you have it kind of clarified like that, you can make easier choices, or the choices that you make are going to be easier.
Yeah.
Because it either lines up or it doesn't.
For me, I think we land at the same spot. I call it my standards, my disciplines, and my consistencies. So your truth is your standards. And for me, like I just have certain standards that like I'm just unwilling to break. And I love that you bring that up because like once you start figuring out what your standards are, that's where the discipline falls in because people think it's hard, like waking up every day and going for a run with my dog, which I do. That's a discipline or something that some people might make seem difficult, but it's just a standard in my life at this point. Like I know my dog needs exercise and I love her and like I kind of use my love for her as like the standard that I set to make sure that I go get that done. Or I talk about like standards being like, would you ever forget your kids at the school line? I mean, I know some people do, but I know for me, like, would you ever let your kid just be sitting on the curb wondering where you are and just forget them and not pick them up?
Yeah.
That's just like it's a standard that just won't happen.
Yeah.
What if you had that same standard for making 25 phone calls a day or getting to the gym or, you know, whatever you want to put it in. So that's where I start to tell people, I'm like, it's not a can you do this? You can do anything. Is it a standard or not? And that's my truth. It's just like, whatever my truths are, I put these standards around it and I decide, is this really a standard for me? Is it important? And if so, it's not even a decision anymore. It's happening.
Yeah.
So that's my, when you talk about your truth, I'm like, that sounds like my standards.
Yeah. Yeah, it really becomes a beacon of what you choose to do and what, more importantly, what you choose to not do.
Well, your decisions become easier because you have these certain standards or truths that you're like, oh, that's just not what I do. Like me in my early 20s, like the decisions I were making were not great, right? Where like my standards have changed where like that's not even a decision for me anymore to like be out till 3 a.m. and like, you know, on a Wednesday. Like it's just, that's not even in my world. I have a different standard for myself.
Yeah.
So if someone like proposes something like that to me, it's like not even a decision. I'm not feeling pulled. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah. You know, automatically it's done.
Yeah.
It's not a reaction. It's something that's already, you know, part of you. Yeah.
And then it's habitual. And if we start talking on habits, then,
oh, bro, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get.
It's earlier when you said triggers. This is one thing that I learned about habits. Habits, and I mean, you already pulled that thread, bro.
No, dude, let's go. Like, this is the right conversation for energy.
So we can go into you know, strategy and techniques and KPIs of entrepreneurship, but I think this is really the base of it all.
If you don't have this, the KPIs don't matter.
This is the foundation. Yeah, I mean, just wiring your mindset and your being around you know, this stuff, so you can actually tackle the other stuff. But in terms of habits, this is something that. A lot of people, and I had the same issue a while back, like a long time ago. It was because I was having a very hard time switching bad habits that I had. Yeah. For example, bad eating habits. I still have some bad eating habits.
Yeah, we're all human.
By choice. Love tacos, bro. Like I can't see tacos. Yeah.
Taco Tuesday.
Oh yeah, tacos and a cold beer. Oh, dude. Yeah. But it's. But those are, you know, those are a choice. And before they were just bad habits. And I mean, that was one of them. I mean, I wasn't really dialed in my physical health and just my owner, like business owner habits were shitty. You know, I was not waking up as early as I needed to wake up. I was procrastinating on a bunch of stuff. So one thing that I learned, instead of changing those habits or tackling the habits directly, and the reason I mentioned this is because I think it's pretty important. It's like one of those little golden nuggets that people can, you know, put in their pocket. It's not tackling the habit itself, but tackling the triggers that come behind it.
Yep.
Or actually before it.
Have you ever read The Power of Habit?
The Power of Habit by Duhigg. What's his name? I forgot his name. Duhigg.
I know who you're talking about though, but he talks about the cycle, right? The cue.
Yeah, the power of habit. Yeah.
But that's so important is people think they need to change the habit when they really need to attack the trigger. Man, I really feel like a cigarette because why?
Right.
There's something, that's what people don't realize. There is something that happens right here before you crave that cigarette or that cupcake or whatever that habit is. There's something that sets it in motion.
Right. Like,
what were they for you that you needed to correct?
I'm a midnight raider. Like the fridge, bro, like
go to bed earlier, right?
I'll destroy that. Well, just not buy the crap that I'm,
But there's a few barriers
Yeah.
you could put in place. I'm the same. I call it fourth meal.
Yeah.
There was an old Taco Bell commercial called Fourth Meal, and I'm like the fourth meal monster. I'm like, fourth meal, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So like 11 o'clock would roll around, and I swear to God, I'd make like meals. And my wife would be like, I already cleaned the kitchen. What are you doing? I'd be like, I'm making bacon and eggs and pancakes. And I'd be like,
because
I don't,
means
I don't know
Yeah.
why. But I was the same. So for me, not having the bad stuff is step one. But I got young kids too, so that's hard to like not have anything. And then getting to bed at a more reasonable hour, because I woke up at 5 and truly worked my butt off, and I was all in. I'm ready to fall asleep now. Last night I was laying with my son at 8:30, and I fell asleep because I was done. Not because I even wanted to. So fourth meal couldn't even happen.
Yeah.
I think that's where your lifestyle and habits start to, the triggers, you can kind of take some of the triggers away.
Yeah.
But I'm still not perfect. I mean,
no, nobody is, man. We all have spots. I mean, ups and downs, and I've been on the personal growth journey for years, dude, and
it's a journey. It
It's a
has
journey.
ups and it
It's
has
a-
downs, and
I mean, doctors call their clinics practices because they're always at it. This is no different. You're always practicing and becoming a better person.
yeah,
You're always. I mean, new triggers are gonna hit you. When you level up, your triggers, your environment, your habits, they're gonna level up too,
Yep.
along with you. So you just gotta be that much stronger for the new stuff that comes in that you don't know about. And it's I mean, it's just a process. But I think that really tapping into the self, into your our essence. Okay, who are we as as people? Who am I as a person? What do I want to bring into my environment? What do I want to bring into the people that have contact with me? And do I want to leave a mark, or do I just don't give two shits about leaving? Which is
which
fine.
is fine too. But you got to decide which.
You got to
way.
decide. Yeah. Once you make a decision and you put that into your little bucket of truth, like it makes it a lot easier, or it
Yeah.
makes it a lot easier to navigate.
Yeah.
So
When we talk about habits, I think one of my favorite quotes ever is "Show me your habits, and I'll show you your life."
Mm-hmm.
I think people underestimate like how much the little stuff becomes who you are.
yeah,
And then one of the things that you said earlier, you were talking about like you weren't as disciplined in food, you weren't as disciplined in this. It affected you as a business owner. And not to be like the quote doctor in here, but another great quote is how you do anything is how you do everything.
right.
I think it's so true. Like when I see somebody that is in shape and put together and articulate and on time, that leads me to believe they're probably going to be all of those things in their business potentially. And we all have vices, don't get me wrong, but I would say more often than not, they're going to be a bit more put together in all areas. And some people are just disorganized and late and these things. I'm not saying they're bad business people, but how you do anything is kind of how you do everything. And I got so obsessed about that quote for a while, I couldn't not take a grocery cart back. Like the smallest things would trigger me, like where I'd be like, I can't litter this. I can't, like I have to go walk to that trash can 200 feet away because like
The grocery cart effect.
however I do this is how I'm going to be in all areas.
Yeah.
So I get like full weirdo on that stuff.
I think you have a point. It's just crazy, man. But you know where I see it like more clearly now? In my kids. Like those dudes just every time I make a move, I mean they're on me. I have my son. He's 13 years old and he's a beast.
I've met him.
Yeah, he's a beast. Like he's all into working out and everything. And like he called me out. Like, hey, Dad, you're losing. You're like, because I had abs and then I didn't have abs. COVID happened. Like abs started going away.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, man, he's noticing. And I think. Again, the how you do one thing. I mean, this thing got thrown at us, right? COVID was just a whole different. A black swan.
Yeah.
Pretty much, and then shit changed. But that's no excuse for me not to keep my my good habits, my regular stuff, the way that I do me at a personal level, and then let go of that. And so it shows, and it showed like right away, and my kids started catching on. It's like, no, man, like this kid's he's in such a great track. Like I don't want him to get,
Yeah, you got to lead by example.
Exactly.
And kids are masters of like mimicry, right? Like they're not going to do what you say. They do what you do.
Yeah.
And I think the other day I loved it so much because I walked out with my 4-year-old little Temp. He's out there and he's in the sun and He's laying on his back and he's breathing by himself. And I'm like, what are you doing, buddy? He goes, doing my Wim Hof. And I'm just like,
I love it.
you know,
Win.
I could go tell him to do that a million times. That's never going to happen. He does it because he sees me out there doing it, right? And he wants to be like his dad.
Yeah.
The same way I wanted to be like my dad. And he did, my dad, I think, did an amazing job, right? And then your kids become what they see.
Right.
So I think when people really break it down like that, it's like, it doesn't matter what you say. What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, exactly. Actions, they're always going to speak louder than words. And you're right, man. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If you take care of yourself, your space, you know, the people around you, and you're loving and caring, and then you act on the, you know, on the best interest of everybody that's in there, and you're kind, I mean, it's gonna just have a ripple effect that's gonna be insane. Why? Because one, the friends and family are gonna notice, even if you're quiet about it. The kids are gonna notice, and then, you know, so on and so forth. So
what I always say is I lead from the front. And I was talking with my 9-year-old, who he's like a really great soccer player, and he's on a year-round club team. And his coach was like, look, he's probably our best boy, but he's not our leader yet. Not because he's not our best boy, but because he's choosing to be quiet about things. And then so I had to talk to him. I go, son, it's not wrong to challenge people in a constructive way and to be vocal and to communicate when you're leading from the front. It's hard. It's hard when you're not putting in the work and you're finishing last in every sprint and you miss practice every day and you don't work hard. And then you try to tell someone to do something. It doesn't get received very well. But I'm like, son, you're grinding. You're leading from the front. So when you say, hey guys, come on, let's get the ball up the field. Let's work harder. Let's, you know, you're doing great, but let's do this, right? Like when you teach them how to lead and they're leading from the front, that message is going to be received. So I had to teach them like, hey, where you are is going to affect the way your message is heard. And so I say that all the time. I lead from the front. Like I'm never going to ask somebody to do something that I don't do. So I taught him that lesson and he was like, that makes sense. I'm like, so don't be shy about being a leader because, dude, you're putting in the work.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a lot more receptive than we give them credit for, I think, sometimes. I mean, they're on point.
Unreal.
Yeah. So I love that, man, leading from the front. And now, switching gears a little bit into the entrepreneur journey. So you've been at this for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, you kind of jumped into both at the same time, and one's fitting the other, meaning the personal growth side to the entrepreneur challenges. One thing that I was going to ask you about, and this is something that, you know, before you showed up today, I had already thought about. Like, I'm going to ask him, how do you keep your energy up with, you know, with the highs and lows of entrepreneur, you know, the challenges, just period. And I think you answered that with the previous conversation. But now you have 7 businesses, right?
Yeah.
Are they all in real estate?
Yeah, so I've tried to, well, there's one that's launching that's just more for fun. During COVID, I didn't buy houses for like a week and I started a whole nother company because I just can't stop.
It's what you do.
But it's apparel. It will be out by the time this launches probably. So it's just a fun little apparel brand. But real businesses, like that's just more of a hobby. It's all, I try to vertically integrate, right? Like I've created this real estate team that is an engine and it spits off title business, lending business, investor business, right? So I got smart in my opinion. I was like, you know what? There's so much extra revenue or duplicated revenue off this one client that I sourced. So why am I not earning on every level? So for me, South Rim Investments or TLP Ventures, which is Miguel and Rodolfo, shout out to them. I just partnered with them in wholesale 3 months ago, and we're just crushing it.
Nice.
But I wholesaled by myself pretty much forever. Lean and mean, just me, the send me your deals model. I was on Brent's podcast, Brent Daniels' TTP podcast, and I talked about that if anyone's ever curious. But pretty much it's 100%.
I saw that episode.
It's 100% referral based, right? And I've done like over 300 deals with no marketing. So I was always doing that, but it required me to do the work, and it was not a business. It was more of a job, but a high-paying job. So I partnered with those guys. TLP Ventures, South Rim Investments, I flip homes. And this year we'll flip 50, but I only want to flip 30 next year. I've gotten more clear on like how and why I want to do it. Templeton Group is like the original one, and that's traditional real estate. and then Silo Title is the title company that I just started. So, and then the other three, there are other holding companies. So all of those feed investment opportunities that I then house in F&B vacation rentals, Flash and Braun, and Uno Dos Tres.
What's Uno Dos Tres?
It's just me and 2 other partners that own
1, 2,
property.
3?
Yeah, yeah.
1, 2, 3 punch.
There's 3 of us, and
Yeah.
all my.
Did you say Devin?
Yeah,
It makes sense it would be called Uno Dos Tres.
Yeah, Devin.
Like I see you guys talking about
Shout
that.
out to Denver. Shout out to Jim Montero. And then the other one, my very first holdings company, my partner wouldn't let us name it this, but this is what it stands for. It's F&B, and it's for Franks and Beans. And he's like, I'm not going in and signing docs for Franks and Beans. So those are kind of the myriad of the companies right now.
Yeah.
And they all work together, right? And there's a vision for more that will like, why am I not owning a pool company? Why am I not owning a turf company? Why am I not owning a landscape company? Why am I not owning a pest control company? Because right now I touch 300 to 400 deals a year through all that. That is enough revenue to give a baseline, a really almost like a cheat code for these other companies.
Absolutely.
To have a sustaining baseline of continuous business, and then treat each of those as their own silo, no pun intended, because that's my title company, but as its own cost center that can then grow and be a thriving business without these.
Right.
So, and then they're vertically integrated. So that's how I look at it.
So creative, man. I love it. It's and yeah, tapping into different, always breaking it down and looking at, okay, where are the different areas of capitalization in the business, right? I think a lot of people, most actually, miss out on that kind of opportunity. One thing that I always get when I recommend real estate, I don't like doing paperwork. I don't like showing houses. I don't like.
Dude, you know
man,
me. Like, do you think I?
Man, there's the thing about it though is like, there's so many things to do when you're in that space.
Yeah.
I mean, you are playing in the real estate space.
Yeah.
You know, through the title company, through the team, of course, through the rehabs, through Uno Dos Tres and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're laughing all the way to the bank and having a good time because I see it.
Well, I want to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be. What I'm trying to get to is that it doesn't have to be something tedious, something like, all right, cool. Yeah, real estate sounds like a boring industry. It might be, but it doesn't. That does not have to be your experience. Why? Because you're an entrepreneur.
Anything I do has to go ELF, E-L-F, easy, lucrative, and fun. Because if it's fun, now you're filling your tank with passion, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like work when you're having fun.
Yep.
So it needs to be fun. It needs to be lucrative because I like making money. And it needs to be easy because I'm not very smart.
I doubt that. I challenge that one. All right.
I mean, I have my strengths, but I would say 97% of what I do is weakness. But here's what I've done. To your point about paperwork, I'm awful at it. But you know what? I've hired amazing people that are perfect at it, right? And they're awesome. And I've been able to scale enough revenue to leverage that out. So I think that's where people are like, you know what? You don't have to go be all things. You can be within your greatest strength and create enough opportunity for everyone, and then position people, partner with people, whatever you're going to do.
Yeah. I want to do a little bit of a throwback here and ask you, how did you get, when you tapped into this whole thing at 25, obviously you were being helped out by your aunt, and so it means that you didn't have a lot of money in the bank.
Nope.
How did you start scaling up, little by little through the years? Can you give us like just some of the benchmarks that kind of came across your journey?
For me, I had never had money, so I started to have a little bit, and I did the classic realtor journey that's like, you make money, you take your foot off the gas, and then I'm like, oh shit, I'm broke again. I needed more deals, right? I did that for probably a year. I realized Mondays aren't really an optional day. Like, you need to put the work in. I got addicted to the Hotwire app for a while. So like, I'd make like 20 grand, and I would stay in all these resorts on Hotwire and like drink mojitos, and then I'd run out of money and be like, shit, I need more money. So like, that was like year one, right?
Baller life, yeah.
Yeah. So that's year one. And then I started to just become more disciplined about the way money moves, right? And when I go make $1, it's not all mine, you know? One, you're gonna have some taxes, but even more important than taxes, in my opinion, is to reinvest into your business and create marketing and create a long-term investment strategy. So now every dollar that comes into my life, 50% of it is not mine, or it's mine. Like, it goes away, but it goes into different stuff. All my companies and everything have to thrive on half. And it's not my job to loan these companies money.
Right.
Templeton doesn't give them his money anymore. In the past, it was just all one big
cloud,
messy bucket.
Yeah.
Right, where now Templeton has this money and these businesses need to go figure out how to thrive. And the analogies in Profit First when he talks about like, you know, like when you're at the end of the toothpaste and like there's none left, but you get creative and you figure out how to get a strip out. That's how your businesses should be running, right? They need to be creative. They need to be lean. The profit, well, yes, you need to reinvest in marketing. Yes, you need to not handicap your business from growth, but like we're doing all this so you can have money to go invest and create your dream life or whatever you want to do. So I started to just like really read. I'm a huge reader, and I don't read very well like this way, like it just doesn't retain as well. I listen to Audible. So if I'm running, working out, driving, it's Audible. So I just started reading about like, how does money work? How does business cash flow work? What's a P&L? You know, like how do I start looking at this as a business owner? And that was huge for me. So that journey was like year one, a little bit of money, and then 2, I probably started making over like multiple 6 figures, and I was like, whoa, like this is more money than like, that I can just like, I need to be a little thoughtful here, right? And then that doubled, and then that doubled, and now, you know, it's a lot. So you're like, I need to be very thoughtful about the way I manage this cash flow. And then I started to get serious about dumping it into investments that pay me cash flow. So now, whether I work this month or not, my bills are paid through my assets. Like I don't have to do this anymore. I wouldn't be living large, but I could live.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's been powerful. Like that was like a benchmark that I set and I really chased, and just giving myself freedom.
Well, I think that that basis of creativity also has gone a long way in the stuff that you've done. Staying open to opportunity. For example, I remember one time we were talking about a particular model on how to structure deals and rentals specifically in a part of town, GCU, university campus, right around it, and and it hadn't registered in my head that instead of renting out the whole thing, you could just do it by rooms.
Yep, that's what. So now, I have 7 over there, and that's like a 40 unit. If you really look at it, it's like I have 40 units over there, and the return is over 25% annual on those. Yeah. Where if I just did them regular rentals, I'd be making $300 a house. Right. Like, which is still good. It's a good return. Yeah. But now it's an exceptional return. Right. It's a lot better to be creative about things. So and not get stalled with the old ways of doing stuff. I mean, or the traditional way may not always be the best way. Well, and a lot of people say you can't do the BRRRR strategy in our market, or our rental ratio, the 1-to-1 is not strong enough. Well, in that model, I made it strong enough, right? I exceeded the expectation by getting creative. Right. So yeah, I think that's where I struggle when people say there's not opportunity or they don't know where to get started. It's like, well, you got to create it. Like, figure it out. Like, figure out where the nooks and the crannies are, and don't just go with this herd mentality. Just because everyone is saying that it doesn't work, that doesn't mean. And I think I've always just been curious. I like to poke stuff and be like maybe see what it does. Yeah, like maybe let's go backwards. Let's see what happens. You know, like let's try something. Why? Yeah. Simple question, so powerful. Why? I don't get it. Have you ever seen the movie Big, Tom Hanks? Yeah. So they're in the thing, and the guy's giving the presentation, and he's like, I don't get it. Like, that's me. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, why? They're like, what do you mean you don't get it? I don't get it. That's like my life. Like, I don't get it. So then I have to like figure out the way I can get it. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's turning out well. It looks like it's turning out very well. So kudos for that. Now, when you being curious, you're gonna get a lot of shiny objects coming at you. Yes. And I think that's one thing that can be, it can make success or it can break success if you let it kind of do its thing with you, right? So how do you manage that? Like, how do you decide on what to take actions on, what not to take actions on? I think you need to have great advisors in your life. So for me, one of my best friends and my brother, they're like 2 of the smartest guys I know. Like, smart in an opposite way of me, like spreadsheet smart, right? Mm-hmm. Mathematical smart. More analytical, more risk adverse than I am, those type of people. So I think as human beings, we like to be around people that tell us yes and are similar to us. I've sought out painful conversations where they go, well, what if this and what if this? And I have this brilliant idea, right? And then they poke holes in it. I seek out those conversations to have them help me understand, because if they think it floats after their analytical
They
brain,
break it down from their angle.
if it still floats after that, I'm like, I might have something here. And there's been times where they've said no, and I said, I appreciate the opinion, I'm still doing it because I believed in it that much. But I think that's where you got to have some sort of filter that you can put your ideas through. Because with guys like you and I, we have free-flowing ideas all day, every day.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I started a damn flannel company, because I was bored. So, you know what I mean? So, was that the best idea? I don't know. We'll see. But you got to have that filter.
Yeah, it's on point, man. So true. It's
You got to seek it out. You got to seek it out from trusted people that you can like truly, when they give you that feedback, you're not offended, you're not hurt, you're like,
leave your ego at the door kind of thing,
Yeah,
and
you're
then
like-
just be open.
you're like, damn, that is a bad idea.
I have his name is Rene. He actually runs my wholesaling company, and he's pretty much an opposite in thought process as to me.
Yep.
So I like to light fires, and then just somehow it's gonna turn itself off.
That's the story of my life.
Yeah. So I mean, it's good on the creative side of things, because then you get. I mean, for me, it's easy to walk up to a whiteboard and then just picture out build a machine of a company.
It's like a Disneyland.
Yeah, exactly, and then plug it in. Like that's my space of genius, I call it. Right? It's like I like playing in that space, but it's not necessarily too analytical. So I miss a lot of the details. I miss a lot of the the what ifs. Shit that I'm just not contemplating when I'm putting all this magical thing together in my head, and 99% of the time, it turns out like it's got a lot of holes.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of go in and
It's your rough draft though.
Yeah. So for a lot of times, like I'll call him, hey, I need your brain.
Yeah.
And then we start talking. Show him. We start talking about whatever. I'll show him what I have in mind. What am I missing? What do you think you would? What would you put into it? And it's not at this point, the interesting thing, I mean, and I say this because you said, the smart comment you made earlier. It's not a matter of IQ, it's just a matter of perspective.
Right.
So psychologically, we're standing here because it's the way we see the world. We have our own behavioral, strengths, right? And thought process. People are wired differently. Not everybody's wired the same.
They have
like
a different vantage point.
yeah. So they have a different vantage point. They're looking at the problem from a different angle. So they're gonna catch all the shit that we miss.
But we don't even see it because we don't even have the perspective to see that.
Right. Yes.
I love that.
So the worst thing that we can do as entrepreneurs, as business owners, is think that we have all the answers. One, two, not find some type of filter that can just fact check us and make sure that something is decent, good, or it passes that filter before we spend fucking 6 months developing it. Because it's happened to me. We're like, nah, it's just me. I got it. I got this, and then I look at it like, damn, this thing does not monetize.
Yeah, this is
this is stupid.
I've done it too many times. But I love the fact that you talk about and I joke around, I'm not smart in these ways, but I'm very bright in other ways. And I think that's just once you're self-aware enough to understand your strengths, you can go ask for guidance in the other areas to say, hey, what are you seeing here? Because I know I'm seeing it and I'm excited about it, right? Like I had this marketing idea the other day called zang.com. I made a voice note to myself at 2 a.m. and I was like, I always talk to myself so I don't forget ideas. And I was like, Zang. And I was picturing it on, and here, I'll just give you the commercial. This is going to be the release.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So the lady's like, Zang. And then they cut. The guy's like, Zang. And then it's me. It's like, Zang, how'd I pay that much for your house? Go to zang.com. This is the idea. I'm waking up I've just changed the world. I'm picturing Zang on billboards and on cars and on buses. And I'm like, this thing hits. Well, apparently it doesn't. I've shared it with different groups, but they all hate it. And then we were golfing the other day. 2 holes later, every hit, everyone's going, Zang! So I'm telling you, there's something there.
It's not a bad idea. It's a pivot. That's what it is.
But you got to seek out and be willing to share those silly ideas, the zang.com, at 2 a.m. You got to share that with somebody and get honest feedback. Where a lot of people, they kind of cower from that conversation. They're like, I'm not going to say it, And I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah. Being afraid of rejection is one of the things that stops
Almost everything.
Almost everything out there. I mean, if you're talking 90% of the great ideas are we don't know about because they're being stopped by fear of rejection. Like something, somebody thinking that, oh, this is stupid. Like, for example, a very common thing would be, for me, that used to happen quite a bit, would be talking to somebody about real estate investments.
Yep.
And like, no, like everybody knows that. Like, but it's not, it's a misconception. I think we believe that everybody sees the world from our eyes.
Yeah.
And it's far
They're
from
fascinated
true.
by something that we like don't even think about. It's so simple, and they're like, wait,
yeah,
you can go make that much money on this,
right?
Just doing this, and we're like, yeah, that's what we do every day. Like,
yeah, and I think everybody has. I mean, everybody has that, right? Like, I'm fascinated about a lot of things that people talk about. I have no idea, and they think that it's common knowledge, and it's I guess I'm saying a lot of things to say this one thing, right? But it's not being afraid of one, putting yourself out there, your ideas out there, having that conversation with the world, hell, with anybody that can filter it and help you kind of fine tune it and polish it, man. I mean, that's gold.
and then being humble enough to take and then also, I get feedback from certain people sometimes where I have to consider the source. I'll be like, hey, thank you so much for the feedback. But in my mind, I'm like, throw it away. Don't let it affect you, right?
Right.
So consider the source, but also be humble enough to ask for the feedback. And when you receive it constructively, but also don't let it go kill your dreams. Because most of the people who love us, they're not going to think the way you and I do, right? They're not going to take the risks we take.
Nope.
And they want to protect us. So they're going to be like, honey, my mom, mijo, do you sure you want to buy another house? And I'm like, Mom, this is how I make a living. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, they're afraid for you.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I followed that logic, I'm going to limit myself into their fear.
Right. I've had that experience happen to me, and they're coming from a space of love, caring, and goodwill.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, their truth is different than mine. I'm more, into squeezing the juice out of life. They're more into the security aspect of it.
Yeah.
My favorite lifetime favorite quote. I haven't heard anything that's topped it is. It's, I refuse to go through life. I refuse to go to walk carefully through life only to arrive safely at my death. Paulo Coelho. And every time I say that, every time I think about that, and I have it, and like, it's ingrained in my in my brain, is like that's me walking through life. Like, I don't want to play the safe card. Just if there's all this life to be lived.
That is, I think, and I got to roll soon. So this will be one of my
I know. I was looking at
okay.
that.
So I got to roll soon because I got to get my son to soccer. But I think that quote, that Paulo Coelho quote, goes so well with how we're living life right now with COVID.
Yeah.
And back in the United States, when the Cold War, in Cuba and Russia, we thought nukes were going to come at us. Americans were living in fear, right? And I don't know who the quote's from. I don't understand. I don't remember exactly where this came from, but it stuck with me. It was like, do you guys want to live every day with a siren going off and going into this bunker and then, dying in a bunker? Or do you want to die living your life, pushing forward, enjoying at dinner with your family, having a glass of wine, and then you get nuked? Yeah. Would you want that, or do you want it living every day with anxiety and fear and being in this dugout hole?
Yeah.
And I think that's, politics aside with Corona right now, do you want to live your life and enjoy and just like with caution and with discipline and being smart, but you can't let this fear overtake you. You need to move forward and live, right? Because if you let this fear and anxiety, you're going to arrive at the destination. Each day is going to pass, right, but you're going to arrive there maybe safely, but without having lived. Where I'm like, no, man, I've removed the fear from it. Like, my wife's gonna have a baby in a week, so I've been very cautious. Like, you're one of the first human beings I've seen in a while, so thank you. But like, it doesn't mean I'm ignorant
I'm honored.
to it. It doesn't mean I'm ignorant to it, but also I've removed the fear from me. Like, I'm not going to be afraid of this. I'm going to live my life and move forward with purpose and passion and energy. And I'm not gonna let this fucking shit like control my brain. And I let it do that to me for 3 weeks, and I let it own me. And I refuse. And no one owns me. Yeah. And I let this damn virus own me for a good 2-3 weeks. So I don't know. Maybe your quote combined with my story right there. Hopefully, there's a gold nugget.
I think there is, man. I think there is. I mean, the point is not to be boxed in because of fear, what people might think, because of what might happen down the road, and then actually just, I mean, all we're doing is fast forwarding, the shitty results to now.
Yeah.
We're just borrowing from the future on the shitty results if we stop, our lives and our purposes and everything that we have. Yeah. So thank you so much, man.
Dude, we got to do another session.
Dude,
we got way more.
Bro, before we cut off, two things. If you were walking down the street and you ran into 17-year-old Temp, what would you tell that kid?
Take action sooner.
Ooh.
Go get your real estate license. And don't over leverage in 2006.
Wow.
I'd be telling them all that. But also not to, everything happens for a reason. So I would just be like, dude, stay centered in love, work on yourself. Mm-hmm. And as you become the greatest version of yourself, everything's going to be fine.
I love it. I love it. Man, so somebody who wants to get a hold of you, where can they do it?
So I have a big push right now trying to grow my YouTube channel. So Templeton Walker on YouTube, and then Instagram, Templeton Walker. And I made my first TikTok today.
Ooh.
Feels weird. But I don't want to be the guy, like the old guy who's like, what's that Facebook? And I feel like I've not wanted on TikTok because it just seems silly.
I still have MySpace. Is that a bad thing?
Do you really?
No,
I was gonna say. I was like, do they still? I was like, I had some gold pictures in there. I want to get mine back.
My friend Tom.
Yeah. So yeah, I would. I mean, Instagram and Instagram is gonna be the best spot.
Awesome. And again, I want to just recap on this. I mean, you do drop a lot of value, not just, funny videos. The videos are funny as shit.
I appreciate it.
I
Did
love
you see my dance one today?
Yes, dude. Oh my God. Yeah. I watched it like 2 or 3 times.
I appreciate
but
it.
But it's so it makes you laugh, but then you get something out of it as well. So if you're not following Temp, make sure you do. And yeah, man, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate it. So there you guys have it. The real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Wrapping up with Tempe Walker. Boom!
Thank you, guys.
It's a wrap. You just got a backstage pass to the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Make sure you follow us on YouTube and iTunes, and check out our website at ceopulse.com. Stay tuned, stay focused. You got this.